Hi, everybody, and welcome to my KVEC Innovation Grant PowerPoint. I want to start off by just giving you a little reminder about who am I. My name is Shana Berry. I'm a first-year teacher at Leatherwood Elementary School. Go Kinder Crew. No, even though I look it, I promise I'm not 12, and I'm super excited to be here, and I loved being a part of this experience. So I work, like I said, at Leatherwood Elementary School. I'm a first year teacher there and I teach kindergarten, and I love every part of it. So, my current situation has updated since the last time I saw you guys. I now have 7 in person students and 1 NTI student, and participation has improved so much since we've returned to school. I mean, it's improved greatly, it's a huge improvement. Mondays are still teacher plan days, so we still have those. And 6 out of 8 students will participate during NTI, which is a big deal for me, guys. You have no idea how great that number is. And then 8 out of 8 students participate during in person and NTI. So we've got really great participation, and it's super, super great right now. So, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, my superintendent thought that it would be best in November to postpone any schooling, NTI or in person, until January. So we did not attend school of any kind during this time. So that did put my students at a slight disadvantage with working with our materials. However, they bounced back and had great success with using the materials. So the disadvantages for my students. So I set really high goals for my students this year, and they're truly at a disadvantage. So most of my students, they didn't have the opportunity to attend preschool. So our Brigant scores showed that 72.7% of our students are below average in academic and cognitive development. 72.7%. That statistic still blows me away to this day, guys. I cannot believe that. We also show that 45.5% are below average in language development. And I also cannot believe that. So that led me to my research question, which is, will the use of at-home manipulatives have a positive effect and benefit on students during the COVID-19 pandemic? And thus, kinder kits are born. So Brigant's data 2021, this year our Brigant's data show great improvement for students coming into kindergarten. However, that data was not as accurate as previous years, and let me tell you why. This is due to the fact that the students were tested in early November. So this allowed months of curriculum to be given to the students before they were being tested. So students had close to 3 months of curriculum before being screened with the Brigance test. So let me tell you a little bit about my kinder kits. So my kinder kits have the same manipulatives that students would use in class during our center activities, and it's going to address reading, writing, math, social studies, and science. So I found a way to incorporate all of those into the grant money that I got, and that way my kits could be full of things that the students could use for all subjects. And the manipulatives include draw and write journals, 10 frames, print number practice book, storytelling lapboard, real bug discovery kits, and good for me rewards kits. So here is, well, there we go. So here is sample videos of lessons that I actually used with my kits. Hello everybody, welcome back. Your first assignment today is going to be with your felt board, and I'm going to read you the Itsy Bitsy Spider, and then you're going to use your felt board and you're going to retell the story for me. So let's begin. The Itsy Bitsy Spider. The Itsy Bitsy Spider climbed up the water spout. Down came the rain. And washed the spider out. Out came the sun. And dried up all the rain. And the Itsy Bitsy Spider climbed up the spout again. So what I want you to do is I want you to grab your felt board and I want you to retell the story, the Itsy Bitsy Spider, for me. So make sure you use your spider, your sun, the rain, and the water spout. If you have any questions or need help, you know where to find me and let me know. Bye, everybody. So that was our first sample lesson. So here is our second. Hello and welcome back. It's time for math. So what we're doing today for math is we're going to complete this worksheet, and it's got all of these addition problems on it. So what I want you to do is I want you to take your 10 frames, and you're going to use your 10 frames to answer these addition problems. So let's do the first one together. The first one says 0 plus 5. So you get out 5 tokens, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you add 0 to it. So what does that give us as our answer? You're right, that leaves us with 5. So I want you to complete this entire page. When you're done with that, I want you to flip the page, and you're going to complete the next page doing the same thing as well. So an example, this one's actually in the middle of the page on this one, but we're going to use it as an example because they're mostly zeros again. Because you guys are doing so awesome with the zeros, we want to keep that practice up, but we also want to move on to using 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s. So if we have 2 and we add 3 tokens to that 2, how many does that give us? Exactly, that gives us 5. Great job, guys. So what I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and complete these 2 pages. And if you have questions or need help, just let me know. Bye, everybody. So those were 2 sample lessons that I actually did with my students, and they actually used the kits for those, and it was super great. They all retold the story. It was wonderful. And then they used their tokens to answer all of the addition problems, and they actually were able to show me that they could understand and not just guess and get it right. So let's talk a little bit about what these materials are. So the Draw and Write Journal is designed for beginning readers and writers. There's room at the top for drawing, which produces good motor skills. And there's primary writing lines for letter, word, and sentence practice. So when we started off, we began with the parents actually using the highlighters to mark what the students wanted to say, and the students traced over that. But as we continued to develop, we took the highlighters away, and then we just did the students doing their own work on those. Next is the 10 frames. And 10 frames help develop skills in counting, composing and decomposing numbers, addition to 20, and subtraction to 20. As of this point right now, we have not yet got to 20. We are still at 10, but that's okay because my students are slowly learning with their manipulatives. Next, we have the print number practice book. That is a write and white book with different numbers on each page, dotted numbers to trace, and blank lines to practice with. Students loved those, and it actually helped 2 students that I know of for a fact learn their numbers all the way to 20 because they did not know them previously. And next we have the storytelling lapboard, which brings stories to life. It helps with language and vocabulary, and it also helps with order of events. Students love the lapboards. The next one we had is the Real Bug Discovery Kit. It had 12 amazing bugs to work with. The bugs are permanently encased in indestructible acrylic. It came with a fact book, a handy magnifier, and a storage container with compartments for each bug. The students really loved these because they got to see bugs that not only lived in the area we live in, but also bugs that didn't live in the area that we live in. And last, we have the Good For Me reward kits. This was the students' favorite thing out of everything because they got to see the progress grow as they grew. And it motivates students to reach goals, track student progress, and students can earn reward certificates. Students absolutely loved that because they actually got to see themselves grow and succeed as we completed those things. My action plan, my plan was to implement the Kinder Kits ASAP to students who are participating in person and through NTI, which was done as soon as the materials came in and we got those sorted. What we needed to start were the kits and materials discussed in the previous slides, and the people involved were myself, my kindergarten aide, Miss Wanda Coots, shout out to Wanda, and the parents of each student. The parents were absolutely wonderful during this entire process. So students will actively use the Kids for School daily, and the timeline was about 6 months. So, excuse me. To determine the success of my kits, students are going to be given an assessment which was given mid-September and again in March. So the first assessment, like I said, was already given at this point in time in mid-September. It was graded using a rubric, and I administered the second assessment mid-March. So this is the assessment that I gave my students. And I also had a piece of paper that was attached to the back of it so that I could keep track of what the students answered. And the questions were, can you take a piece of paper and write a story and draw a picture about your story? Can you add 2 plus 5? What does that equal? Can you write the letters E, T, and I in both upper and lower case? Can you write the number 6? Can you use items around the room to tell me a story? What kind of bugs live around our school or your home? And what are some behaviors that are good and earn you rewards? So this is the rubric. We scored it on the ABCD 1, 2, 3 kind of scale. And A consisted of the student's ability to answer, B was their work shown, C was answer accuracy, and D was completion of questions. So to earn a 1 on part A, students would have to be unable to explain their reasoning for their answers. To earn a 2, they would have to briefly explain their reasoning for their answers. And to earn a 3, they would have to be able to fully explain their reasoning for answers. Part B, for their work shown, for a 1, they would have to give no details. For a 2, they would have to give little detail. And 3, they would have to give complete detail. Part C says answer accuracy. Students give incorrect answer to all parts of the question. That would get a 1. 2 would be students give partial correctness to one or more parts of the question. And a 3 would be students give correct answer to all parts of questions. For part D, they would earn a 1 if they did not complete the question, a 2 if they partially completed the question, and a 3 if they answered all parts of the question. So as you can see, this student scored a 1.5. This was on the 28th of September, 2020. So the student partially gave some answers on that. They scored a 1.5. I had to actually write for the student. I have a dog at my house. They had to trace it. They could not write their upper and lowercase letters, as you can see. And this was just a little bit of a mess. And they couldn't retell the story. They couldn't take items around the room to tell me their story. And this was just a 1.5. Now this student got a 2. They did a little bit better. They were able to give me some more details, and they were able to write their upper and lowercase letters for the most part. They could write the number 6, and their story actually made a little bit more sense than the last one. Next, this student also got a 2. Again, I had to write for this student like I did most of the students at this point in time. The student's story didn't make as much sense as the last story did, but they were able to take items around the room and find a way to push them together, such as an umbrella and index cards. So this is sample 4. This one actually came from March. So this one was a student that got a 2. They were able to do a lot of things except they struggled with retelling the story of the gingerbread man. I let the students choose which story they wanted to retell. This student chose the gingerbread man, and he really seemed to struggle with that. But that's okay because that's what we're still working on in class today. As you can see on this one, this student scored a 2.5. So this student was able to add 2 plus 5. They were able to do their letters correctly. They were able to write the number 6. As you can see, they're still sounding out their words. His sentence says, he is blocking me from the hoop. He actually sounded that out all on his own. He did super great. And this student really just went above and beyond on this to get a 2.5. I was super impressed and super proud with how this student did. And the last student that I have as an example scored a 3. Now, talk about going above and beyond. This student did fabulous. I was extremely satisfied with how they retold the story of the 3 bears, how they knew that they could get sight words and 5 dojo points to earn their reward for the day, and how they could do their letters, upper and lower case. Their sentence looks great. I see a cat. I have no trouble reading that. I loved how this student just really put everything they had into this test. So overall, my data told me that the use of Kinder kits did help my students. So we've seen a huge improvement from our first round of data to our second round of data. So the first round showed us that 0 out of 8 students scored a 3. Nobody got a 3 on our last assessment when we give it in mid September. Nobody scored a 3. We had 4 2 or above, so that could be a 2 or a 2.5. And we had 4 1 or above, which is a 1 or a 1.5. Then on the second round of assessment, we had one student score a 3. She went above and beyond. She did fabulous. Then we had 6 out of 8 students score a 2 or above. And I'm sorry, there's a typo in there. I just now seen it. So the 2 or above, most of those, I think 4 out of the 6, if I'm not mistaken, were 2.5. So I was super proud of that. And I have one student who's actually on the retention list who got a 1. But I'm still proud of that student because his score was, even though it was the same as his last score, his improvement was still there and I could still see a dramatic change in him. So, based off the data collected during the cycle, I would determine that my kinder kits were a success. So, students were able to use and learn with all of our materials, and lessons were taught that asked students to use the manipulatives to help guide their learning. So, the data that I collected, as mentioned in previous slides, showed the improvement from October to March. I was super impressed considering that we only had a few months of instruction before we went out of school in November and did not return until January. So, based on my conclusions, I would determine that my kits were overall a success. The biggest strengths of my kits, was that my students had access to in-school materials at home. This truly helped improve NTI and success for my students' overall learning. The students who were on NTI during the first part of the school year with these materials, I could see a humongous difference in them from the time that they started till now. That's a big difference for them. And then when they return to school, I could see huge improvements just based off of what we did with those kits. But this was also the biggest limitation of my project. So once most of my students returned to school in mid-March, they did not have their materials anymore. They, had their excuses and their reasons why they didn't have them. They had either been lost or left at home most school days, and this had a really big impact on their ability to learn and use the materials. But luckily, I had planned for this and I wrote my grant with a few extra of each item. Overall, I'm very happy with how my students performed and used their items throughout this experience, and I believe that without the use of my kits, my students would not have been as successful in their learning. These kits were amazing resources, and they have throughout our hybrid learning experience. So they've been absolutely wonderful as we have done our learning, and I'm super happy and super impressed with how my students' ability to learn with these kits turned out. So here are some photos of my little babies, and they're working with their kits. As you can see, we have someone using their Draw and Write journal. I'm sorry, I blanked there for a second. She's also down there in the bottom using her letter book. And then we see her again using her 10 frames. And then we see another student using her 10 frames and another one using his felt board, retelling me the story of the Itsy Bitsy spider from the lesson that you previously seen. So that is what our Good For Me Rewards kits look like in the beginning. As you can tell, I marked out Saturday and Sunday because we did not need those days because we were not in school. And you can see my little babies over there smiling next to their reward kits because they were so proud of how they had turned out. So here's some more photos of my babies. I absolutely loved the parents sending me these because it kept me updated on what the students were doing and how they liked the kits. Overall, for student feedback, I got a lot of great feedback, and the parents loved these kits. They said that they could really see a difference in their student. So overall, we're extremely happy with that. So here's some more photos of my babies next to that. So as you can see, we've got somebody over here standing next to her Good For Me rewards. She's so proud of herself. They're holding up their items, they're taking their pictures, and they are absolutely thrilled with their materials. So as you can see, I used Class Dojo down at the bottom. We actually had to take a screenshot of a picture on Dojo. Ooh. So that was okay, but we did it anyway. We took a screenshot. You can see somebody retelling. There's again the Itsy Bitsy spider. My students were just thrilled with all of these materials. They hadn't had these before and they loved them. So what I have here is I have one video of a student using her felt board to retell a video or retell a story, and then another student using his 10 frames that I would like to show you.
Once upon a time, there were 3 bears, Papa Bear, Mama Bear, and Little Bear. One day, they went to eat their porridge. Papa Bear, Mama Bear, and Baby Bear.
So as you can tell, you can hear my aide in the background. We were doing this in a one-on-one setting. I actually let a bunch of students do it. And this was part of a test that I had been giving them. And you can hear her in the background with the other students. So I do want to apologize for that.
They decided to go on a trip before the forest was done. One day, a little girl named Goldilocks entered the house. She tried and tried, but no one came in. First, she tried the biggest door, but it was much too hot. Next, she tried the medium door, and it was much too cold. Next, she tried the smallest door. It was just right. She went downstairs and saw 3 chairs. First, she tried the biggest chair, but it was much too hard. Next, she tried the medium chair, but it was much too soft. Next, she tried the smallest chair, and it was just right. Although she rocked and rocked until it came to pieces.
I also want to mention that this student has a very fabulous vocabulary. She is on her 5th grade sight words right now.
But it was much too high. Next, she tried the medium bed.
So please keep in mind, I had to mute it there because my aide is with the other students. So please just keep that in mind.
And it was just right. When they came home, they saw the little girl. Somebody's been eating my porridge. Somebody's been eating my porridge. Somebody's been eating my porridge, and it's all gone. When they went downstairs,
Dante, come get this. That's what I call your name.
they found their bag.
Do not listen.
Please don't mind my age. She's just giving a little bit of a lecture on how my students have a listening problem.
Somebody's been sitting in my chair. Somebody's been sitting in my chair. Somebody's been sitting in my chair when it's broken to pieces. Somebody's been sleeping in my bed. Somebody's been sleeping in my bed. Somebody's been sleeping in my bed, and she's still there.
Shana, do you have yours cut out?
No. Although,
You want to cut it out? You want me to cut it out?
eat a porridge. I will
Okay.
eat it.
All right, Brantley, I'm going to give you some math problems and I want you to do them using your 10 frame, okay?
Okay.
3 plus 2.
3 plus 2.
What does that equal?
5.
Good job. Clear your frame. Five plus 1.
2.
Good job. Clear your frame. Eight plus 2.
8 plus 2.
Good job, Brantley.
So those were the videos of my little babies doing their work with their kit materials. And I just want to say that they have blown me out of the water with how they've done with these so far. I absolutely love the kits, and I'm hoping to do some more next year.
All right, Brantley.
So that's the end of my presentation. This is my contact information. I've really, truly enjoyed being a part of this process. And if you have any questions or you want any more information about my kits, please feel free to contact me. There's my email, my cell phone, and my work phone. I just want to say that being a part of this experience has been absolutely wonderful, and I'm super thankful for it. Thank you all. Bye.